Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Money Conversations with FPN Quest Asset Management. Today, we are discussing personal finance, personal investment. And I have with me my colleagues here, Anne Oragu, Laura Fisayo,
Hi.
and Charles Njoku. And we'll be doing justice to the topic. And I'd like to start with you, Laura.
Oh,
So when we talk of personal finance, I mean, a lot of people have different understanding to personal finance. So can you help us understand what is personal finance and why is it important?
why is it important? You know what? I think it is, in the simplest sense, personal finance is your personal money issues. So as we all grow up, you start as a child and you have someone who's catering to all of your needs, right? And then we're all adults and suddenly you're pushed out on your own and you have to begin to cater for your own needs. You hopefully find something that you're doing that's earning you a living. So it's bringing you revenue, right? Money to spend. And then in life, we have so many costs. And as you get older and you begin to reproduce and you multiply yourself, you then have more and more things that are costing you money. You have family to take care of, whether it's your parents and so on and so forth, and even yourself. So essentially, personal finance is how do I ensure that the revenue I earn, my salary or my whatever it is that you're earning money from, how do I ensure that that's covering for all of the costs that we all have to bear, whether it's your own personal costs, your rent, your school fees, etc., or it's your children's school fees and their shelter costs or feeding, or it's your parents, there are so many costs, right? Or it's your holiday. It's how do I ensure that that stretches to cover all of that? And I'm hopefully also in that having a portion that I'm saving away, because one, there will definitely be things that you don't plan on happening that will happen and need money. And secondly, we also hope to not work for the rest of our lives. We hope to retire at some maybe not so advanced age where you've hopefully saved a lot of money and you can use that money to survive
To go to the
for
Bahamas.
the next 20 years or 25 years and go to the Bahamas or whatever it is that you want to do with your life, right? So you want to also save for retirement. So you're saying to yourself, this revenue I'm earning, how am I covering my immediate costs? How am I saving for future costs? How am I saving for emergencies? And by God, how am I saving so that I don't work forever until I die and I have a retirement
Wow.
package?
Wow.
That is personal finance.
Thank you very much, Laura.
You're
I mean,
welcome.
as you're talking, my mind was just going around when you talk about, all the things that you have to do with money, the family issues, the personal issues that come. And of course,
Yes.
personal finance is the approach to adopt in catering to those issues. So maybe
Exactly.
I'll just come to Anne now. So Anne, please, can you tell us what the right approach will be if I have not been engaging in personal finance and after listening to this podcast, I want to start to, take my finances seriously? What would be the approach to take?
Okay. In carrying out a personal financial plan, I'd say there are three main things that anyone can remember that need to be done. And those would be one, planning towards a goal. Two, understanding and analyzing your income. And three, understanding and analyzing your expenses. So I'll now go back to the first one. In planning, you have to think about what your goals are and start from the most important goals. Because once you've met your most important goal, the rest of the things will fall in place. So just think to yourself, if there was just one thing that, all this hustle I'm going through with work and all, if there's one major thing that I accomplished that would really make me feel fulfilled, what is that thing? I think you should prioritize that and identify. When you identify, it's not just to say this is the thing, it's also to find out what is the cost and what would the cost be at the time that I'm doing it.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
And so once you've been able to establish that, you then build in to the next stage where you say, how much am I earning? And what I try to make people understand is when you think of what you're earning, it's not just your salary. A lot of Nigerians have side hustles, right? Because we're very talented people.
Sure.
And when we do all these things, just think, oh, our side hustle money is free money. It's nothing like free money, because everything we're doing in life, we're paying for. So when you're identifying your income, taking your paid salary or your business income, if you're running a business, taking the monies you're making from any side hustle that you might be doing, and if you're lucky, where you come from a family or you're from in the society where you get gifted, please build that into your income, because the better you plan for these things, the more likely you're able to have a successful financial life, so to speak. And when you've identified your plans, you've identified your income, this is the tricky and naughty part. You have to identify your expenses. Expenses are an interesting thing. Expenses. And like I said, start with the most important expenses, things that will make you fulfilled. But please don't forget the expenses you need to live. If you buy the most beautiful house and you cannot feed your family, or you cannot eat yourself, you're going to have to sell the house. So when you're planning your expenses, always recognize the fact that you have to stay alive till your next income, and build all those things into your expenses as well. So plan your expenses. And then Laura had mentioned the fact that you have to ensure that your income can somehow cover your expenses. So please try to make that happen. I know you can say, oh, but then I can borrow if my income doesn't cover my expenses. And yes, you can. But the thing about borrowing is that you should only borrow when whatever you're borrowing for is going to earn in itself. So my advice is, please don't borrow to buy that beautiful bag if you're a woman, or that amazing shoe. Because unless that bag is going to give you $1 million job, then please just leave it aside until you can afford it, right? So just to recap, I've spoken about the fact that you start from the plan, your income, and then your expenses. Then if you want to go extra, you can go to protection. And protection is very healthy and very important. When you now talk about things like insurance, if you insure all your assets, it sort of means that you're not going to have to cough out the money to replace them totally ever again.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if you think of protection as well, that would help you. I think that would be like a good intro.
Very well. Thank you very much, Anne. I mean, while you are talking, I was just thinking, you mentioned the costs again, as Laura had also mentioned, the cost of things out there in the market and income. We're planning from the same income that we earn, and income can be salaries and all of that. But let me just come to you, Charles. I mean, in the face of this very high inflation environment, how have you been able to practice personal financial management?
Honestly, I must say it's not really easy. We've seen the prices of things are actually very high compared to this time 2 years ago. You most likely are going to be things are on the high. Imagine inflation figure above 34%. That's really crazy. And that actually affects us. When you go to the market to buy a bag of rice or a bag of beans,
I feel like the market. I went market last week and it was like, oh my god.
That's really So for me, I think what I've been doing is just to manage. I just try to budget as much as possible. Anne was talking about planning, and it's important. Remember when Laura was talking, she talked about personal finance, is actually personal. So for me, I had to do what works for me. I had to check myself, okay, reduce the cost of this, get more of this. Initially, maybe if I used to get a bag of rice, I had to just do half bag of rice.
Have you reduced your ration?
If I used to eat 3 times, I just know but now twice a day and I'm fine with it. Just to try and manage that. A lot of people, they have different ways in which they manage situations like this. And there's this rule of thumb that you do your 50, 30, 20, 50% into your needs, 30% into your wants, what you don't need at immediate, and 20% into savings. Although that rule of thumb is not proven anywhere. can
Sure.
work anyhow. So
Sure.
you can tweak it.
Yeah.
Either you do 40, 30, hide works. That's what it's called personal.
Yes.
Whatever works for you, you can decide,
Yes.
okay, I want to save as much as possible and I want to reduce my expense, or I want to spend a lot and just save a little. Some people that have debt, what they do, they don't have any savings. You find out that rule does not work for them. The 20% that they're supposed to save is into debt repayment, and it's important to pay off your debt before you now start talking about savings. So because if you don't pay off those debts, you find out that when those debts keep rising, keeps affecting your overall
Yeah,
income that
sure.
you have most likely in
Sure,
future.
sure.
So for me, I just try to create a balance between both, and it's important to have that behavior also to not stick to that budget. You understand that people just plan and they're okay with planning, but they won't stick to that particular budget plan that they've done.
Yeah.
And I often tell people that your behavior towards finance is more important than your knowledge of finance. You might have that knowledge, oh, let me create a plan. But if you're not disciplined, if you don't stick to it, if you're not cautious, it becomes a problem for you. So that's how I've been navigating this situation. And I think everybody has what has been working for them.
So different strokes for different folks.
Yeah,
Is
honestly.
planning. Let me ask Laura
Yeah.
one funny question. If you had a job that paid you 5 million every month, or would you rather have
Amen.
5 million every month or 30 million at once? Which would you prefer, considering inflation? 5 million every month for 1 year, and 30 million at once, okay, for you to do your investment planning or whatever. Which would you prefer, considering our inflation environment in Nigeria?
That's so interesting. So, I mean, for me, I feel like I would take 5 million every month
month.
for 1 year rather than 30 million as a lump sum.
Me too.
For one thing, 5 million every month is much more than 30 million as a lump sum to
Twice.
start with.
What about
It's like
inflation?
double.
The effect of inflation?
Yeah, but like, I mean, I guess what I'll be saying is where I am today, if I'd rather that 5 million come in on a monthly basis,
Okay.
use that to invest at the time, because yes, to my mind, it's true that prices are going up and there's a lot
Sure.
of inflation. But I think if I got 30 million lump sum, I don't know that I would get much higher returns that will cover the inflation immediately anyway, that I wouldn't, that I can't get on a month-to-month basis. And then to be frank, 5 million every month for 12 months is 60 million. So it's so much more than so much more than
Even
30
if
million
you
lump sum.
calculate
Even
for
when-
the inflation,
even, yeah,
or
even, like,
inflation.
even if I think, sort of discount the inflationary impact, I
interesting.
think that it's so much more. And to be honest, yeah, 5 million every month.
Okay.
I'll take that. 100%.
Sarah's owned
I've
it.
earned it because I feel like if I say it over and
She
over
said,
again,
she said
They will come.
my
amen.
employers will hear.
She said amen.
Come to pass.
Okay, let me ask Anne this question.
Please up mine.
20 million every month.
So, what's the first thing you are going to do when you receive some unexpected amount of money? What would you do? You never expected it, and maybe some 20, 30, 40, 50 million just hit your account. What will you do with that?
I like where Emmanuel is going.
No, what will you do? What will you do first? Will you invest? Would you save? Would you give it out? Would you invest in properties, or would you go and have that long holiday that you've been
Or you
thinking
buy the
of
Birkin
having?
bag.
What will you do?
Buy the Birkin bag. Buy the Birkin bag.
What will you do
Okay.
if you had that kind of money
I'll
now?
put a disclaimer before I give my quotation. So my only known hobby to my family is shopping.
Shopping. Wow.
Yes. So now that I've put some perspective, I'll
Yeah.
go to answer that question.
Birkin bag.
So what I would do, and this is going from my experience, the last time I got a lump sum, is because I know myself. I pushed it immediately into an investment because I knew that if Anne kept that money and has a card in her bag, no matter the sum, Emmanuel, don't underestimate me. It would be spent. It would be spent. So when bulk money comes in, and I'm like, fantastic, things that I thought I couldn't achieve, I can now achieve. Before I even take time to analyze it, because that could take a while, I will put it in an investment. So that way I can't even access it.
Wow.
So please, for everybody who's like me, it's good to have shopping as a hobby. It's fun. But please act wisely. you.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, wonderful contribution here. So for me, my experience this recently has been calls and calls and calls from friends and family members. The pressure has been so much, and I don't even pick some calls again because everybody wants me to do something for them. And I find it difficult explaining to everybody that, look, I am also adjusting. Maybe I can learn a thing or two from you. Let me start with you. How have you been handled? Do you have such kind of pressures? Do family calls and people one issue or the other, school fees, no food, and all of those kind of things? How do you handle such things?
Firstly, yeah, I think it's one thing that almost everybody experiences. You don't escape from it. You just have people, even family, friends, that just need one or two helps many times. I think the best thing to do is to have some reservation for what you want to give out when planning,
Okay.
and ensure that you do not exceed that. Because people would come and call you, oh, I have this. But the moment you
No,
start,
but sometimes the problem will be as if you don't do something, somebody's going to die or something.
but trust me, if you don't do anything,
Nobody
that
will
person
die.
find a way to solve that. If you don't do
Word.
anything, they will find a way to solve that. So
Right.
you don't do what you can at that point in
Okay.
time.
All right.
Try to make some reservations for them and don't exceed yourself, because people, black tax will always be there. But you just have to ensure that you find a way around it, because each time you come, you will notice that unchecked expenses like that, if not properly checked, can lead to something that you didn't plan for. So
Absolutely.
you need to actually keep yourself in check and tell them many times, okay, I didn't plan for this. This is what I can do. This is what I can afford at this point in time. Or maybe next month I'll put it in my planning and I'll do this. That's what I do basically. Instead of explaining to everybody that no, I don't have this, I don't have this. Basically,
Okay.
that's what I do.
Thank you very much. So let me ask Laura finally. So for people listening to us and really want to make that decision today of deliberate financial journey, how can FBN Quest be of help to them? How can we position to assist such kind of people?
So I think that the very first thing I'll say is for anybody like that, get out, get in touch, like reach out to us, social media, emails, whatever it is, right? That's the first thing. Second thing is we are full of financial advisors, because ultimately, Anne spoke about, she said, the first thing you need to do is plan. And it sounds like it could be easy, but one of the things she said when she was speaking was, know your expenses, know how much they cost, but more importantly, know how much they will cost. Because there's some things you want to save for, spend towards or save towards that are not immediate today. So say, for example, you have a child and you want the child to go to a particular secondary school. Even if you know the school fees today, if that child is 7 years old, they're not going to secondary school for another 3 or 4 years. So that you know that the fees for that school is 5 million a year today. And you say, okay, I'm going to start saving so I have 5 million in 3 years' time. Well, you can bet that it's not going to be 5 million in 3 years' time. So you actually need someone to sit with you, understand your lifestyle, understand your sources of income, understand these expenses that you have, and then begin to build in things like inflation. If you're now even going far and say, oh, I want my kids to study abroad, they build in the inflation overseas. They look at a plan that helps you save for long-term expenses in the future, so that what you're doing is, yes, I'm putting money away today so that in 10 years' time, my child can afford to go to secondary school ABC. And in 15 years' time, they can transition to, or 16, can get to university XYZ. And, things like that. Or I want to buy a house in 4 years' time. Like we bought our house, say 7 years ago, 8 years ago. If you want to buy that house today, clearly it wouldn't be the cost it was 7 years ago. Now, if I was making a plan, if you're saying, look, Charles, the young guy, says, I want to buy a house in 5 years' time. If he says, this is the house I want to buy in this area, he can't say, that house is 100 million today. Let me start saving 100 million so that I'll buy it in 4 years. He needs someone to sit with him and start talking about that. And then also building into that model, what kind of returns can I earn on the money that I'm saving or investing, so that when I put my capital plus my returns, I can then afford this house that maybe in 4 years will now be 150 million or 180 million. Though that's the kind of planning you require. So sit with our advisors and people like Anne, like Emmanuel here as well, who can hear you out, make a plan with you, and then help sort of build that. And like Charles said, most important thing, all this, we're talking about plan, stick to it. Because if you write a fancy plan and, you just, in the end, you just go and buy one handbag or like $1 million wig, $1 million naira wig. And then you start spending your rent.
All right. Thank you
Then, it's worth
much.
nothing.
Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you, Anne.
Thank
you,
you.
Charles. Thank you, everyone. It's been a wonderful conversation today. And I hope our viewers have learned a thing or two. And for those who have not commenced their financial journeys, will start today. And as Laura has said, reach out to us at FBN Quest Asset Management, and you will have dedicated financial planners that will guide you to making your financial decisions. Thank you, and we'll say bye till next time.
Bye. Everyone.